Elena Chun stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office on the 47th floor, watching the streets below blur into impressionist streaks of light and shadow. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman in her late 30s who looked like she had everything. The sharp lines of her tailored suit, the elegant twist of dark hair at her nape, the commanding posture that had become second nature over 15 years of clawing her way to the top of Chun Industries. But reflections, she had learned, were just surfaces. They showed you what you wanted the world to see, not what hid underneath. Her phone buzzed. Another message from her mother, the third one this week. When are you coming to dinner? Your father misses you. Bring someone, anyone. Elena deleted it without responding. The way she had deleted the previous two. Her parents had specific ideas about what her life should look like. Ideas that involved someone suitable beside her, someone who fit into their world of old money and older expectations. They had stopped asking directly about grandchildren. But the question hung in every pause, every concerned look her mother gave her when she thought Elena wasn't watching. The office door opened without a knock. Only one person in the entire building had that kind of audacity. You're brooding again, said Maya, her chief operating officer, and the only person Elena had trusted with anything resembling friendship in the past 5 years. That's never good for quarterly projections. I'm thinking, Elena corrected, not turning from the window. Same thing, different tax bracket. Maya crossed the room, her heels clicking against the marble floor with the confidence of someone who had earned her place rather than inherited it. She held out a tablet. The Harper account closed. The Singapore deal is moving forward, and we have a situation in HR. Elena finally turned, one eyebrow raised. What kind of situation? The problematic kind. Victoria Ashford has been making waves again. Third complaint this month about her management style, and this time there's talk of creating a hostile work environment. Legal is concerned. Maya's expression was carefully neutral, but Elena could read the subtext. Victoria Ashford was the daughter of one of their major shareholders, a woman who treated her position as regional operations manager like a birthright rather than a responsibility. Elena had been managing the political fallout of Victoria's behavior for 2 years, always walking the line between what was right and what was expedient. Schedule a meeting with her tomorrow morning first thing. Elena took the tablet, scrolling through the complaint summary. The language was careful, sanitized by legal's review, but the story underneath was clear enough. Inappropriate comments, unwanted advances, a pattern of behavior that targeted women Victoria perceived as vulnerable. The latest incident involved someone in the marketing department, a junior analyst who had filed a formal complaint after months of documented harassment. Elena? Maya said quietly, and something in her tone made Elena look up. The analyst who filed the complaint is Mara Santos? The name hit like a physical blow, stealing the breath from Elena's lungs. For a moment the office tilted, and she gripped the edge of her desk to steady herself. Mira, after 7 years of silence, of carefully constructed walls and deliberate forgetting. That name still had the power to unmake her. Mara Santos, she repeated, and her voice sounded strange in her own ears, distant and hollow. You know her, Maya said. It wasn't a question. I knew her a long time ago. Elena set down the tablet with excessive care as if it might shatter. Her mind was already racing backward, pulling at memories she had spent years trying to bury. Mira's laugh, bright and uninhibited, the way she used to tuck her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. The apartment they had shared for 3 years, small and cramped, and filled with more happiness than Elena had known before or since. The morning Elena had walked away without explanation, leaving only a note that said she was sorry, that it wasn't Mira's fault, that she needed to focus on her career. The coward's exit, the one that still woke her at 3 a.m. with regret sitting heavy on her chest. How long ago? Maya asked. 7 years, maybe 8. Elena turned back to the window, but now the view seemed accusatory. All those lights representing lives she wasn't living, choices she hadn't made. I didn't know she worked here. She's been here for 6 months. Marketing department, analytics division. According to her file, She's brilliant. Top of her cohort from Berkeley. Worked at 3 major firms before this. Single mother. Maya paused, and Elena knew what was coming before she said it. She has a daughter, 6 years old. The math was immediate and devastating. Elena's hands were trembling, so she clasped them behind her back, where Maya couldn't see. 6 years old, which meant Mira had been pregnant when Elena left or became pregnant shortly after. The thought that she might have been carrying their child because Elena knew had always known in some corner of her heart that refused to stop hoping when Elena had walked out made her feel physically ill. Does the file say anything else? Just that she's requested a transfer to a different department away from Victoria's division. Maya's voice was gentle now, the way it got when she knew Elena was hurting, but couldn't say so directly. You need to handle this personally. Both the Victoria situation and the Mira situation. They're connected now. I'm aware. Elena's reflection in the window looked pale, almost ghostly. Send me everything you have on both cases. And Maya, not a word about my history with Mira to anyone. Of course. Maya moved toward the door, then hesitated. For what it's worth, you were happier when you were with her. I remember. You used to smile at random moments like you were remembering something good. You haven't done that in years. After Maya left, Elena stood alone in her office for a long time, watching the rain streak the windows and trying to prepare herself for what came next. She had built this company into an empire through ruthless focus and unwavering determination. She had sacrificed everything personal on the altar of professional success. And now the past she had tried to outrun was working 3 floors below her, filing complaints against a woman Elena should have fired years ago, but hadn't because of politics and shareholders and all the compromises that came with power. The irony was not lost on her. She had left Mira to protect her career, and now her career was forcing her to face what she had done. The next morning arrived too quickly and not quickly enough. Elena had spent the night reading through files, preparing for both meetings with the kind of meticulous attention to detail that had made her reputation. Victoria's personnel file was a litany of red flags that HR had somehow overlooked or deliberately ignored complaints from subordinates, reports of inappropriate behavior, declining team performance metrics. The picture it painted was of someone who had been allowed to fail upward because of her family connections, creating damage that the company would eventually have to answer for. It should have been handled years ago. Elena knew that. She had known it then and chosen expedience over ethics. And now someone was paying the price for her cowardice. Mira's file was different. Excellent performance reviews. Projects completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Recommendations from her immediate supervisor praising her analytical skills and creative problem solving. And a photograph attached to her employee badge that made Elena's heart stop. Even in the formal, unflattering style of corporate photography, Mira was beautiful. Her dark hair was longer now, falling past her shoulders in waves that Elena remembered tangling her fingers through. Her eyes, those warm brown eyes that had once looked at Elena like she hung the stars, stared out from the screen with professional neutrality. She looked older, more tired, but there was a steadiness to her expression that hadn't been there before. Motherhood had changed her, Elena thought. Or maybe just surviving what Elenina had done to her had changed her. Victoria Ashford arrived at 8:30, 15 minutes late for their 8:15 meeting. She entered Elena's office with the casual arrogance of someone who had never faced real consequences. Her designer suit and expensive jewelry, a careful performance of wealth and status. Elena, she said, not bothering with Miss Chan or any of their formality. I assume this is about the ridiculous complaint from that analyst. I hope we can resolve this quickly. I have a meeting in Tribeca at 10. Sit down, Victoria. Elena's voice was cold enough to frost glass. She remained standing, using the height advantage to establish dominance from the start. You're not going to your meeting in Tribeca. You're going to sit here and listen while I explain exactly how close you are to being terminated. Victoria's smile faltered. I don't think you understand the situation. My family has significant investment in this company. You can't just, I can do whatever the hell I want. Elena interrupted. I'm the CEO. Your family's investment gives them a seat on the board and quarterly reports. It doesn't give you immunity from consequences when you sexually harass your subordinates. She slid a folder across the desk. This is the third formal complaint filed against you in 6 months. 3 different women, all describing a pattern of unwanted advances, inappropriate comments, and retaliation when they rejected your attention. Do you want to tell me how you plan to defend that? Those women are lying. Victoria's voice had gone sharp, defensive. They're trying to bring me down because they're jealous of my position. You know how it is in corporate environments. Women can be so catty. Elena felt rage balloon in her chest, hot and bright and dangerous. She thought of Mira 3 floors below trying to do her job while dealing with this woman's predatory behavior. She thought of all the times she had compromised her principles for political expediency. All the moments when she had chosen the easy path over the right one. "Get out of my office," she said quietly. "Excuse me, you're suspended, effective immediately, pending an investigation by an external firm that will review all complaints against you. If the investigation confirms what I already know, that you've created a hostile work environment and sexually harassed multiple employees, you will be terminated. Your family's investment won't protect you. Your last name won't protect you. Nothing will protect you from the consequences of your actions." Elena leaned forward, her hands flat on the desk. "And Victoria, if you attempt to contact, intimidate, or retaliate against any of the women who file complaints, I will personally ensure that you never work in this industry again. I will make your name synonymous with liability. Do you understand me?" Victoria stood, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. "My mother will hear about this. The board will hear about this. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was not firing you 2 years ago when the first complaint came across my desk. Now get out. Security will escort you from the building and ensure you return your access credentials." Elena picked up her phone and pressed the intercom. "Maya, send security to my office. Miss Ashford is leaving." After Victoria had been escorted out, Elena stood at her window again, watching the morning light struggle through the clouds. She felt exhausted and strangely elated, as if she had finally done something that aligned with who she wanted to be rather than who she had become. But the hardest part was still ahead. She needed to talk to Mira, not as the CEO addressing an employee complaint, but as the woman who had broken her heart and disappeared without explanation. She owed Mira that much, at least an explanation, an apology, the truth about why she had left and what it had cost her. She pressed the intercom again. "Maya, can you ask Mara Santos to come to my office? Tell her it's about her complaint and that she's not in any trouble." "Of course, Elena." Maya's voice was careful. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" "No," Elena said honestly, "but I should have done it 7 years ago." The 15 minutes before Mira arrived felt like hours. Elena paced her office, trying out and discarding different opening lines. "I'm sorry seemed insufficient. I can explain" was presumptuous. "I never stopped thinking about you" was too revealing, too raw. In the end, she settled on standing behind her desk, using its solid presence as both shield and prop, and waited for the knock that would bring her past crashing into her present. When it came, Elena's voice almost failed her. "Come in." The door opened, and Mara Santos stepped into her office for the first time in 7 years. She was wearing a simple black dress and cardigan, professional but not expensive, the outfit of someone who had learned to navigate corporate spaces without the armor of designer labels. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail, revealing the face Elena had memorized in another lifetime. She looked nervous, her hands clasped in front of her, and she stopped just inside the door when she saw who was waiting for her. "Elena," she said, and her voice was exactly as Elena remembered. Warm and slightly husky, with an undertone of strength that belied her gentle demeanor. "I didn't know you were the CEO. I didn't know you worked here. I didn't know you worked here either. Not until yesterday." Elena gestured to the chair across from our desk. "Please sit. I want to talk to you about your complaint, but I also we need to talk about other things if you're willing." Mira hesitated, and Elena could see the war playing out across her features. the professional obligation to engage with the CEO about a workplace issue, the personal hurt of seeing the woman who had abandoned her without explanation, the fear that this conversation would reopen wounds that had barely healed. Finally, she moved forward and sat, her posture rigid, her hands folded in her lap. "I'm not withdrawing my complaint. Whatever you have to say about us, about what happened, it doesn't change what Victoria did. I'm not asking you to withdraw it. Victoria has been suspended and is under investigation. If the investigation confirms your complaint and the others we've received, she'd be terminated. I should have done it years ago and I didn't, and I'm sorry for that." Elena sat down as well, wanting to minimize the power differential between them. "But you're right. We do need to talk about what happened, about us, if you'll let me explain." Mira's eyes were bright with unshed tears, and the sight of them broke something inside Elena. "You left me a note. Elena, 3 years together, and you left me a note that said you needed to focus on your career. You didn't answer my calls. You didn't respond to my messages. You just disappeared like I meant nothing to you. You meant everything to me." The words came out fierce and anguished, all of Elena's careful control dissolving in the face of Mira's pain. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed it because I was a coward. Because my parents were pressuring me to end things with you and focus on taking over the company because I thought I had to choose between you and my career, between love and legacy. And I chose wrong. I chose wrong, Mira, and I have regretted it every single day for 7 years. Then why didn't you come back?" Mira's voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me that? Why did you let me spend months thinking I had done something wrong? That I wasn't enough for you?" Elena felt tears on her own cheeks now, hot and shameful. "Because by the time I realized what I'd done, what I'd given up, you had already moved on. I saw pictures on social media of you at events looking happy. I convinced myself that you were better off without me, that I would only hurt you again if I came back into your life. And then you disappeared from social media entirely, and I didn't know how to find you without using company resources, which felt like a violation. So I tried to forget you. I buried myself in work and told myself it was for the best. I deleted my social media because I was pregnant and didn't want my family to find out until I was ready to tell them." Mira said it quietly, but the impact was seismic. "I was pregnant when you left, Elena. I didn't know yet. I found out 2 weeks after you disappeared, and I tried to tell you. I tried so hard to reach you, but you had blocked my number and blocked me on every platform. So I raised our daughter alone." The world stopped. Elena heard the words, understood them intellectually, but her mind refused to process their full meaning. Our daughter, 7 years of missing pieces suddenly clicking into place with devastating clarity. The 6-year-old child in Mira's employee file. The timing that Elena had noticed but hadn't let herself believe. The way Mira's whole life had changed in the wake of Elena's abandonment. "We have a daughter," she whispered. "I have a daughter," Mira corrected. And the distinction was like a knife between Elena's ribs. "You left before she existed. You don't get to claim her now just because you finally found out." "You're right. I don't have any right to claim her. I don't have any right to ask you for anything." Elena stood unable to sit still under the weight of this revelation. "But Mira, please let me meet her. Let me know her. I can't take back what I did. I can't give you back the 7 years I stole from all of us. But I'm here now. I'm not running anymore. I want to be part of her life, part of your lives. Why should I trust you?" Mira stood as well, her arms wrapped around herself protectively. "You left me once. What's to stop you from doing it again? When things get difficult? When your parents pressure you? When your career demands it?" "Nothing." Elena admitted nothing except my word, which I know means very little right now, but I'm not the same person I was 7 years ago. I've built this company into something extraordinary, and it doesn't mean anything. Every achievement, every success, it's all hollow because I'm not sharing it with you because I gave up the only thing that mattered for things that don't matter at all. Mira was crying openly now, and Elena wanted to go to her, to hold her the way she used to when the world felt too heavy. But she stayed where she was, knowing she had forfeited the right to comfort when she had chosen to inflict the pain. "I need time," Mira said finally. "I need to think about this, about what's best for Sophie." That's her name, Sophie. She's 6 years old, and she's brilliant and funny and kind, and she asks about her other mother sometimes. I've never known what to tell her. Tell her the truth that I'm a fool who made a terrible mistake. That I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. Elena wrote something on a piece of paper and held it out. This is my personal number, not the one that goes through assistance, the one that only a handful of people have. Call me when you're ready. Or don't call me. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it, but please know that I love you. I never stopped loving you. Mira took the paper with shaking hands, staring at it like it might burn her. I need to get back to work. I have a presentation this afternoon. Take the rest of the day off. Paid, you've been through enough. Elena moved back behind her desk, reestablishing professional boundaries because personal ones had been obliterated. And Mira, your transfer request is approved. You'll be moving to the executive marketing division. It's a promotion, not a lateral move. You'll report directly to the CMO, and your salary will reflect the new position. You earn it based on your performance, not because of our history. Thank you. Mira moved toward the door, then paused with her hand on the handle. I'm not ready to forgive you yet. I don't know if I ever will be, but I'll think about what you said about Sophie. She deserves to know where she came from. After Mira left, Elena collapsed into her chair, her head in her hands. She had a daughter, a 6-year-old girl named Sophie, who asked about her other mother and deserved answers Elena didn't know how to give. The weight of what she had missed, the pregnancy, the birth, 6 years of birthdays and first words, and scraped knees and bedtime stories pressed down on her with suffocating force. She had been here in this building, making deals and attending meetings and climbing the corporate ladder, while her daughter was growing up without her. While Mira was raising their child alone, struggling with sleepless nights and daycare costs and all the million challenges of single parenthood. The cruelty of it was almost unbearable. Maya came in without knocking, took one look at Elena's face, and closed the door firmly behind her. What happened? I have a daughter. Elena's voice was hollow. Mira was pregnant when I left her, and I have a 6-year-old daughter I've never met. Her name is Sophie. Maya's expression shifted from concern to something deeper, sadder. She crossed to the small bar in the corner of Elena's office and poured 2 glasses of scotch despite it being barely noon. She handed one to Elena and kept one for herself. Tell me everything. So, Elena did. She told Maya about the conversation with Mira, about the revelation that had shattered her carefully constructed world, about Sophie and the 7 years she had missed, and the impossible task of making amends for something so fundamentally broken. Maya listened without interrupting, her face grave, and when Elena finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You know, this changes everything, Mia said finally. You're going to have to tell your parents. You're going to have to restructure your priorities. Being a parent, even a part-time one, even one trying to earn that role, is going to require time and energy you've been putting into this company. I know, and I don't care. The company can survive without me for a few hours a day. It can survive without me being at every meeting and reviewing every contract. Sophie won't be sick forever. Mira won't give me a second chance, twice. Elena drained her glass, feeling the burn of the scotch like a cleansing fire. I need to figure out how to be the person they deserve. I need to figure out how to be more than just this. Then that's what we'll do. Maya raised her glass in a small toast to second chances and the courage to deserve them. The days that followed were a peculiar kind of torture. Elena waited for Mira to call, checking her personal phone obsessively between meetings and during lunch breaks and late at night when sleep refused to come. She imagined 1,000 different scenarios. Mira deciding Elena didn't deserve to meet Sophie. Mira setting strict boundaries that would keep Elena at arm's length forever. Mira simply never calling at all. The uncertainty was agonizing, made worse by the knowledge that she had brought this entirely on herself. She threw herself into work with even more intensity than usual, using it as a distraction from the questions that haunted her. The investigation into Victoria moved forward quickly with the external firm, uncovering even more complaints that HR had failed to properly document or address. Elena fired the HR director for negligence and brought in new leadership with a mandate to overhaul the company's harassment policies. She gave interviews about creating safe workplace environments and implementing zero-tolerance policies. And if her sudden passion for the issue felt personal, well, it was. She couldn't undo what had happened to Mira, but she could ensure it didn't happen to anyone else on her watch. 3 weeks passed before her personal phone finally rang with an unknown number. Elena answered on the first ring, her heart pounding. "Hello, it's Mira." A pause and Elena heard street sounds in the background. Traffic voices, the ambient noise of the city. "I've thought about what you said about Sophie. She's asking more questions lately about her family, about where she came from. Her teacher has been doing a unit on family trees, and it's making her more curious. What did you tell her about me?" Elena's hand was trembling so badly she had to switch the phone to her other ear. "I told her that her other mother loved her very much, but had to go away before she was born. I told her that sometimes people make mistakes and hurt the people they love without meaning to. And I told her that you were trying to make things right now if she wanted to meet you." Mira's voice was careful, neutral, revealing nothing of her own feelings. "She said she wants to meet you, but Elena, I need you to understand something. If you're going to be in her life, you have to be a Lynn. No halfway measures, no disappearing when it gets hard or inconvenient. She's 6 years old and she deserves stability and commitment. Can you give her that?" "Yes," Elena didn't hesitate. "Whatever it takes, whatever I need to change about my life, I'll do it. I swear to you, Mira, I won't abandon her. I won't abandon either of you." Another long pause, then quietly. "We're at the park near my apartment tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. She'd be wearing a yellow jacket. You can't miss her. She looks like you." Same eyes, same stubborn expression. Elena felt something crack open in her chest, some tightly wound knot of grief and hope finally releasing. "I'll be there. Thank you, Mira. Thank you for giving me this chance." "I'm not doing it for you," Mira said. "I'm doing it for Sophie. She deserves to know her mother, even if that mother is someone who broke my heart." The next afternoon, Elena arrived at the park 30 minutes early, too anxious to wait any longer. She had changed clothes 3 times that morning, finally settling on jeans and a soft sweater. Casual but presentable, approachable, but not trying too hard. She felt ridiculous. A 40-year-old CEO worrying about what to wear to meet her own daughter. But the stakes felt impossibly high. This was her chance to be something more than the woman in the corner office, more than the name on the company letterhead. This was her chance to be a mother. The park was busy with weekend crowds, families playing frisbee, couples walking dogs, joggers navigating the paths. Elena found a bench with a clear view of the playground and sat down to wait, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. At exactly 2 o'clock, she saw them. Mira walking slowly beside a small figure in a bright yellow jacket. Sophie, her daughter. Elena stood without realizing she was moving, drawn forward by a force she couldn't name. Sophie was laughing at something Mira had said, her face tilted up toward the sun. And the sight of her smile made Elena's eyes burn with tears. Mira was right. Sophie looked like her. The same dark hair falling in waves around her shoulders. The same sharp intelligence in her eyes. The same stubborn set to her jaw that Elena saw in the mirror every day. But there was Mira in her too, in the warmth of her expression and the grace of her movements. She was beautiful and perfect in Elena's, and Elena had missed 6 years of her life. Mira saw her first and touched Sophie's shoulder, bending down to say something Elena couldn't hear. Sophie looked up, her gaze finding Elena across the distance. And for a moment they simply stared at each other. Mother and daughter, stranger and family, past and future, all colliding in one breathless instant. Then Sophie was moving, walking toward Elena with a child's unself-conscious confidence. And Elena was walking toward her, closing the gap that had existed for far too long. They met in the middle of the path, and Elena knelt down so they were at eye level. Up close, Sophie was even more extraordinary. Her eyes were the exact shade of hazel Elena saw in the mirror, flecked with gold that caught the light. "Hi," Elena said, and her voice was shaking. "I'm Elena. Your mom probably told you I'm your other mother." "You're the one who went away," Sophie said. And there was no accusation in her tone, just simple statement of fact. "Mama said you made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life," Elena agreed. "I should have been there when you were born. I should have been there for your first steps and your first words and all the important things." "I'm sorry I wasn't." Sophie studied her with an intensity that was unnerving in someone so young. "Mama says you're sorry and you want to be here now." "Is that true?" "Yes, more than anything." Elena felt tears sliding down her cheeks and didn't bother to wipe them away. "I want to know you, Sophie. I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. I want to hear about school and your friends and what makes you laugh. I want to be here for all the things I missed." Sophie reached out suddenly and touched Elena's face, her small hand warm against Elena's wet cheek. "You're crying," she observed. "Because I'm happy," Elena said. "Because I finally get to meet you and you're so amazing and I've been waiting so long for this moment." "Do you like dinosaurs?" Sophie asked. And the sudden shift in topic was so perfectly, wonderfully childlike that Elena laughed. "I don't know much about them, but I'd love to learn." "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I love them. I want to be a paleontologist when I grow up. Mama took me to the Natural History Museum last month, and they have a T-Rex skeleton that's so big." Sophie spread her arms wide to demonstrate. "And I have books about dinosaurs at home. I could show you if you want." Elena looked past Sophie to where Mira stood watching them, her expression carefully neutral, but her eyes bright with emotion. "Is that okay with your mama?" Mira walked forward slowly, and when she reached them, she crouched down beside Sophie. "We can invite Elena over for dinner sometime soon if you'd like, but today's just for getting to know each other." "Just you and her." "I want to show her the playground," Sophie announced. "And the swings. I can go really high now." For the next hour, Elena followed her daughter around the park, pushing her on the swings and watching her navigate the jungle gym with fearless enthusiasm. Sophie chattered constantly about her teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, who was teaching them about the solar system, about her best friend Zara, who had a pet hamster, about the book series she was reading about dragons. Elena listened to every word, memorizing the cadence of Sophie's voice, and the way her face lit up when she talked about things she loved. Mira watched from a nearby bench, her expression unreadable, and Elena was acutely aware of her presence even as she focused on Sophie. This was Mira's gift, allowing Elena access to Sophie. Trusting her not to hurt their daughter the way she had hurt Mira, the weight of that trust was enormous. And Elena felt it settling on her shoulders like a physical thing. She couldn't mess this up. She wouldn't. When Sophie finally tired herself out, they walked back to where Mira was sitting. Sophie climbed into Mira's lap without hesitation, and the easy intimacy between them made Elena's chest ache with longing. This was what she had given up. This warmth, this connection, this family. "Did you have fun?" Mira asked, smoothing Sophie's windswept hair. "So much fun. Elena is really nice. Can she come to my birthday party? It's in 2 weeks, and we're going to have a dinosaur cake." Sophie looked at Elena hopefully. Elena glanced at Mira, waiting for permission. Mira hesitated, then nodded slightly. "Elena is welcome to come to your birthday party if she's available." "I'll be there," Elena said immediately. "I wouldn't miss it for anything." They exchanged numbers before parting, and Elena watched them walk away until they disappeared around a corner. Sophie had turned back twice to wave, and each time Elena had waved back, feeling something in her chest expand and contract with equal force. She had met her daughter. Sophie was real and wonderful and wanted her in her life. The enormity of it was overwhelming. Over the following weeks, Elena began the delicate work of building a relationship with Sophie. She attended the birthday party, bringing a carefully chosen gift, a kit for excavating fake dinosaur bones that Sophie tore into with delighted enthusiasm. She started having dinner with them once a week, bringing takeout from Sophie's favorite restaurant, and staying to help with homework or read bedtime stories. She learned that Sophie hated broccoli but loved Brussels sprouts, that she was learning piano and struggling with fractions, that she wanted a dog, but Mira said their apartment was too small. With each visit, Elena felt herself settling into a role she had never imagined occupying. She asked Mira's permission before making any decisions about Sophie, respecting the boundaries Mira had established. She showed up when she said she would, canceled work meetings when they conflicted with time with Sophie, and slowly, painfully, began to demonstrate that she could be trusted. The work was humbling and terrifying and more fulfilling than anything Elena had ever accomplished in her career. Her relationship with Mira remained complicated. They were cordial, cooperative, focused on what was best for Sophie. But there was a wall between them built from hurt and betrayal and 7 years of silence. Elena respected it even as she longed to tear it down. Some nights after Sophie went to bed, they would sit in Mira's small living room and talk about logistics, schedule changes, school events, medical appointments. The conversation was always careful, professional, devoid of the intimacy they had once shared. Elena mourned that loss even as she accepted it as the consequence of her choices. 2 months after that first meeting in the park, Elena's parents requested a family dinner. She had been avoiding them, knowing that she would eventually have to tell them about Sophie and Mira and the life she was building outside their expectations. The conversation she was dreading couldn't be postponed any longer. She arrived at her parents' sprawling estate in the suburbs on a gray Sunday evening, steeling herself for the battle she knew was coming. Her mother opened the door, elegant and perfectly composed as always, her expression shifting to mild surprise when she saw Elena's casual attire. "Darling, you're not dressed for dinner." "I'm dressed fine, Mom." Elena kissed her mother's cheek and stepped inside, breathing in the familiar scent of expensive perfume and furniture polish. "Where's Dad?" "In his study." "Well, I'll wait for you in the dining room." Her mother's tone suggested that Elena should go change into something more appropriate, but Elena ignored the implication and headed toward her father's study instead. Her father was sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, reading over what looked like financial reports. He looked up when Elena entered and gestured to the chair across from him. "Elena, your mother said you've been avoiding us." "I've been busy." "There's something I need to tell you both." Elena sat trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "Should we do this now, or do you want to wait until dinner?" "Now is fine." "What's this about?" Her father set aside his papers, giving Elena his full attention in a way that would have thrilled her when she was younger. Now it just made her anxious. "I have a daughter. Her name is Sophie. She's 6 years old, and I'm going to be part of her life." Elena said it quickly, like ripping off a bandage. "Her other mother is Mara Santos, the woman I was with 7 years ago. The woman you told me I needed to leave if I wanted to run the company." Her father's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "I see. And this child, you're certain she's yours?" "Yes, Mara was pregnant when I left, but I didn't know. I only found out recently." Elena leaned forward, her hands clasped on the desk between them. "I'm telling you this because I'm going to be making changes to my schedule and my priorities. Sophie needs me, and I'm going to be there for her. The company will have to adjust." "The company is your legacy, Elena. It's what your grandfather built, what I've spent my life maintaining. You can't simply walk away from that responsibility because you have a child." Her father's voice was measured, but Elena could hear the steel underneath. "I'm not walking away from anything. I'm still the CEO. I'm still running the company, but I'm also going to be a mother." Other executives manage to balance their professional and personal lives. I can too. Elena stood, needing the physical distance. I'm not asking for your permission, Dad. I'm telling you how things are going to be. You can accept it or not, but it won't change my decision. Her father stood as well, and for a moment they faced each other across the desk like adversaries. Then he sighed, and suddenly he looked older, more tired than Elena had ever seen him. Is this about the girl Mara? Are you trying to reconnect with her? This is about Sophie, about being the parent I should have been from the beginning. But yes, Mira is part of that. She's Sophie's mother, and she's been raising our daughter alone for 6 years because I was too much of a coward to stand up to you and Mom. Elena felt anger rising, hot and sharp. You told me I had to choose between my personal life and my career. You made me believe I couldn't have both, but you were wrong. I can have both. I should have had both all along. We wanted what was best for you. Her father's voice was quieter now, almost defensive. The life you were building with that woman, it wasn't what we envisioned for you. It wasn't what would have been accepted in our circles. I don't care about your circles. I care about my daughter. I care about building a life that actually means something instead of just accumulating power and money, and the approval of people whose opinions don't matter. Elena moved toward the door. I'm going to tell Mom the same thing I'm telling you. Sophie is part of my life now. Mira is part of my life. If USA can't accept that, then we're going to have a very different relationship going forward. Dinner was tense and awkward. Her mother's barely concealed disapproval hanging over the table like a storm cloud. But Elena held her ground, answering their questions about Sophie with pride and refusing to apologize for her choices. When her mother suggested that perhaps Sophie and Mira would be better off with financial support rather than Elena's direct involvement, Elena put down her fork and looked her mother in the eye. I spent 7 years listening to you tell me what I should want and who I should be. I'm done with that. I love my daughter. I'm going to be part of her life. And if you can't support that, then you're choosing not to be part of my life. It's that simple. She left before dessert, driving back to the city with her hands shaking on the wheel. But underneath the anger and hurt, she felt something else. Relief. She had finally stood up to her parents, finally chosen herself and her daughter, and the life she wanted to build over their expectations and approval. It felt like breaking free from chains she hadn't fully realized were holding her. The breakthrough with Mira came unexpectedly, 3 months into their careful coexistence. Elena had been at their apartment for dinner, and Sophie had fallen asleep on the couch during a movie, her head pillowed on Elena's lap. Elena had been stroking her hair gently, marveling at this small human who shared her DNA and her stubborn chin, and her love of asking endless questions. Mira had been watching from the kitchen doorway, her expression soft in a way Elena hadn't seen in months. She really loves you, Mira said quietly, moving to sit beside them. She talks about you constantly. Elena said this. Elena thinks that you've become one of the most important people in her world. She's the most important person in mine. Elena looked down at Sophie's sleeping face, feeling the familiar ache of all the time she had lost. I know I can't make up for the years I missed, but I'm trying to be the mother she deserves now. You are. Mira reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind Sophie's ear, her hand briefly brushing Elena's. The contact sent electricity up Elena's arm, and she saw Mira's quick intake of breath that suggested she had felt it too. I was so angry with you for so long. I wanted you to suffer the way I suffered. But watching you with her, seeing how much you love her, it's hard to hold on to that anger. You have every right to be angry. What I did to you was unforgivable. Elena's voice was rough with emotion. I left you pregnant and alone because I was too scared to stand up to my parents because I thought my career was more important than our relationship. I destroyed the best thing in my life, and I hurt you in ways I can never fully repair. You did, Mara agreed. You broke my heart. Elena, there were days during my pregnancy when I could barely get out of bed because I was so sad and scared and angry. Days when I had to remind myself that Sophie needed me to be strong, to keep going. I resented you for leaving me to handle it all alone. I resented you for not being there when she was born, when she took her first steps, when she said her first word. What was it? Her first word? Elena asked, even though the answer would hurt. Mummy, she was 10 months old and we were reading a book and she just looked at me and said, Mama, clear as day. Mira's eyes were shining. I called my mother crying because I was so happy and so sad at the same time. Happy because Sophie was growing and hitting milestones. Sad because you weren't there to share it with me. Elena felt tears tracking down her face. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. For leaving. For missing those moments. For making you go through it alone. You're an incredible mother, Mira. Sophie is amazing because of you, because of the strength and love you gave her when I wasn't there. I can never repay that debt. I don't want you to repay anything. I just want you to keep showing up. Keep being there for her. Keep proving that you're not going to disappear again. Mira's hand found Elena's and squeezed gently. And maybe eventually we can figure out how to be friends again, how to be family for Sophie's sake. I'd like that. Elena squeezed back, not wanting to let go, but knowing she should. I'd like that very much. I'm not ready for anything more than friendship, Mira added quickly. I need you to know that what we had before, I can't just go back to that. Too much has happened. Too much time has passed. I understand. Friendship is more than I deserve. Elena looked down at Sophie again, memorizing the peaceful expression on her daughter's face. Can I ask you something? Did you ever think about trying to find me when you found out you were pregnant? Every day for the first 6 months, I drafted 100 messages I never sent. I drove past your parents' house twice, trying to work up the courage to knock on the door. But then I'd remember how completely you had cut me out. How thoroughly you had blocked every avenue of contact. And I'd realized that you didn't want to be found, that you had made your choice, and I needed to respect it. Mira's voice was sad but steady. Eventually I stopped looking. I focused on building a life for Sophie and me, on being enough for both of us. I convinced myself that we were better off without you. Were you better off? Elena needed to know. Even though the answer might destroy her in some ways, yes, I learned how strong I could be. I learned that I didn't need someone else to complete me or make me whole. I learned that I could build a good life for my daughter on my own terms. Mira paused. But there were nights when Sophie would ask about her other mother, and I had to explain why you weren't there. And I'd hate you all over again for making me lie to her. For making me tell her that you loved her when I didn't even know if that was true anymore. It was true. It is true. I never stopped loving her. Even when I didn't know she existed. And I never stopped loving you. Even when I convinced myself I had. Elena shifted carefully, not wanting to wake Sophie, but needing to see Mira's face. I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. But I need you to know that not a day went by when I didn't think about you. Didn't regret what I'd done. The life I built without you was hollow and meaningless. I had everything I thought I wanted. And it turned out to be worth nothing. I wish I could say that makes it hurt less, but it doesn't. It just makes me sad for both of us. For all the time we wasted, all the moments we missed. Mira stood, breaking the connection between them. I should get Sophie to bed. She has school tomorrow. Elena carefully lifted Sophie and followed Mira to the small bedroom at the end of the hall. Together, they tucked her into bed, a routine they had developed over the past months. Elena removing Sophie's shoes while Mira pulled back the covers, both of them kissing her forehead before turning on her nightlight. It was domestic and tender and everything Elena had once thought she didn't need. As they stood in the doorway watching Sophie sleep, Elena felt Mira's hand slip into hers again, just for a moment before she pulled away. Thank you, Elena whispered, for letting me be here, for giving me this chance. Thank you for showing up, Mira replied, for proving that you mean what you say. The months that followed saw a gradual thawing of the ice between them. They started having coffee together while Sophie was at school. Tentative conversations that slowly rebuilt the foundation of trust that Elena had shattered. Mira told her about the early years of Sophie's life, the challenges of single parenthood. the judgment from people who thought she was too young or too unprepared, the fierce love that had carried her through the hardest moments. Elena shared the truth about her life after leaving Mira, the emptiness that no amount of professional success could fill, the relationships that never worked because she was always comparing them to what she had lost, the growing realization that she had made the wrong choice. They fell into a co-parenting rhythm that worked for all three of them. Elena picked Sophie up from school twice a week and helped with homework at a cafe near Mira's apartment. She attended every school event, every piano recital, every soccer game. She introduced Sophie to her assistant Maya, who immediately adored the bright, curious child and started keeping dinosaur stickers in her desk drawer. She even eventually introduced Sophie to her parents, who were stiff and formal, but made an effort to be welcoming because Elena had made it clear their relationship depended on it. Sophie flourished with two mothers actively involved in her life. She was more confident, more secure, asking fewer anxious questions about why Elena had been gone and more excited questions about when they would see each other next. She started calling Elena Mama E to distinguish her from Mama. And the first time she did it, Elena had to excuse herself to cry in the bathroom from the overwhelming joy of being claimed by this extraordinary child. 6 months after that first meeting in the park, Mira invited Elena to stay for dinner on a night when Sophie was at a sleepover. "Just us," she said. "I think we need to talk about some things without little ears around." Elena arrived with wine and takeout from the Thai restaurant they used to frequent when they lived together. Mira had set the table with actual plates instead of eating from containers, and there were candles lit, and Elena's heart started beating faster with hope and fear in equal measure. They ate mostly in silence, the weight of unspoken things hanging between them. Until finally Mira sat down her fork and looked directly at Elena. "I've been thinking..." Mira began about us, about what we were and what we could be again. Elena started, but Mira held up a hand. "Let me finish. I've spent 7 years convinced that what we had was gone forever, but you had destroyed it beyond repair. And maybe you did destroy what we had before. But I hope that maybe we could build something new, something different, but maybe stronger because it's built on truth, instead of the fear and insecurity that made you leave." Mara's eyes were bright with emotion. "I still love you, Elena. I tried not to. I tried to hate you, to move on, to convince myself that I was better off without you. But these past months, watching you with Sophie, seeing how hard you're trying to make things right, I can't help but love you still." Elena felt her breath catch. "I love you too." I never stopped. But I don't want to pressure you or make you feel like you owe me anything. What we're building now, this friendship, this family, it's more than I ever hoped for. I don't want to risk losing that by asking for too much. What if I'm the one asking?" Mira stood and moved around the table, holding out her hand. Elena took it and let Mira pull her to her feet. They stood inches apart, close enough that Elena could see the gold flecks in Mira's eyes, close enough to count her freckles. "What if I'm asking you to try again? To build a life together, the three of us? Not the life we had before, but something new, something honest and true and strong enough to weather whatever comes." "Are you sure?" Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "I broke your heart once. I don't know if I could survive breaking it again. Breaking Sophie's heart if this doesn't work. I'm terrified," Mira admitted. "But I'm also sure. I'm sure that I want to wake up next to you again. I'm sure that I want Sophie to see her mothers love each other. I'm sure that life is too short to let fear keep us from the things that matter most." She's brought Elena's hand to her lips and kissed it gently. "I'm sure that I want to try." Elena pulled Mira close, wrapping her arms around her and burying her face in her hair. She smelled like lavender and home. And Elena felt something inside her shift and settle, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this," she promised. "I'll be the partner you deserve, the mother Sophie deserves. I'll choose you over everything else every single day." "I know you will." Mira tilted her head back, and Elena, saw her own hope and love and determination reflected in Mira's expression, because this time you're not running scared. This time you know what matters. They kissed then, soft and tentative at first, relearning the taste and feel of each other after 7 years apart. It was familiar and new at the same time, muscle memory and discovery intertwined. Elena felt tears on her cheeks again, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude and overwhelming love for this woman who had every reason to turn her away, but chose to welcome her home instead. They talked until late into the night, making plans and setting boundaries and discussing how to navigate this new chapter. Mira wanted to take things slowly to move toward living together gradually rather than rushing into cohabitation. Elena agreed, understanding that trust needed to be rebuilt brick by brick, that grand gestures weren't as meaningful as consistent daily choices to show up and be present. They decided to tell Sophie together to make sure she understood that her mothers loved each other and that this was a happy thing, but that some things would stay the same. Her room, her school, her routines, even as other things changed. Sophie's reaction when they told her the next weekend was pure joy. She threw her arms around both of them, squealing with delight. Does this mean we're going to be a real family? Like Zara's family with 2 moms who live together. Eventually, Mira said carefully, "But we're already a real family, sweetheart. We've always been a real family. This just means Mama E and I are going to be partners again the way we were before. Will Mama E move in with us?" Sophie looked hopefully at Elena. "Someday, yes, but not right away. We want to make sure we do everything right this time. Take our time and build something strong." Elena ruffled Sophie's hair. "Is that okay with you?" "I guess, but I want you to stay over a lot and have sleepovers. And we should get a dog when you move in because 2 moms means twice as much help taking care of it." Sophie's logic was irrefutable, and both Mira and Elena laughed. "We'll see about the dog," Mira said, sharing an amused look with Elena over Sophie's head. One big change at a time. The year that followed was one of careful growth and healing. Elena restructured her work life, delegating more to Maya and her executive team, setting firm boundaries around her time with Mira and Sophie. She left the office by 6 every day, worked from home 1 day a week, and refused meeting requests that conflicted with important family events. Her parents remained distant but civil, occasionally showing up for major occasions with expensive gifts and stiff smiles. Elena accepted their limitations and stopped expecting them to change, finding peace in the family she had chosen rather than mourning the one she had been born into. She and Mira moved slowly toward full reconciliation, spending more nights together, gradually merging their lives in ways that felt intentional and thoughtful. They went to Coos therapy to work through the trauma of their separation and the fears that lingered. They had difficult conversations about money and career and what it meant for Elena to be so much wealthier than Mira, establishing joint accounts and shared financial goals that gave them both agency. They navigated the challenges of blending their different parenting styles and communication patterns, learning to compromise and support each other. 18 months after that first meeting in the park, Elena sold her sterile downtown penthouse and moved into a house with a yard in Mira and Sophie's neighborhood. They picked it out together, a 3-bedroom Craftsman with enough space for all of them, and a fenced backyard that was perfect for the golden retriever puppy they brought home the day after closing. Sophie named him Rex, after her favorite dinosaur, and he became another thread in the tapestry of their growing family. On a quiet Sunday morning 2 years after they had reconnected, Elena woke up to find Sophie squeezed between her and Mira in bed. Rex sprawled across their feet. The room was filled with soft morning light, and she could hear birds singing in the tree outside their window. Mira was still asleep, one arm draped protectively over Sophie, her face peaceful and beautiful in a way that made Elena's chest ache with love. Sophie was awake, watching Elena with those hazel eyes that mirrored her own. "What are you thinking about, baby?" Elena whispered, not wanting to wake Mira. "I'm thinking that I'm glad you came back," Sophie whispered back. "I'm glad we're all together now. Me too, sweetheart." "Me too." Elena reached over and took Sophie's small hand in hers, feeling the solid reality of this moment. this life, this second chance she had been given. I love you so much. You and your mama are the best things that ever happened to me. I love you too, Mama E, even when you snore, Sophie grinned impishly. I do not snore, Elena protested quietly. But Mira stirred beside them, her eyes opening slowly. You absolutely snore, Mira said sleepily, pulling them both closer. But we love you anyway. They lay there together as the morning brightened around them. Two mothers and a daughter and a dog tangled in blankets and each other, building a life from the broken pieces of what had been. Elena thought about the woman she'd been 7 years ago. So convinced that she had to choose between love and success. So afraid of disappointing her parents that she had destroyed her own happiness. She thought about Mira raising Sophie alone through those early years with a strength Elena could hardly fathom. She thought about Sophie growing up with questions about her other mother and the courage to welcome Elena back into her life when she finally appeared. And she thought about the future, Sophie's graduations and relationships and accomplishments that stretched out before them, the ordinary moments and extraordinary ones they would share as a family, the challenges they would face and overcome together, the love that had survived separation and silence and was now being given a second chance to flourish. She had spent years chasing things that didn't matter, sacrificing what was real for what was merely impressive. But she had found her way back. She had been given the gift of forgiveness, the opportunity to rebuild, the chance to be more than just the CEO in the corner office. What do you want to do today? Mira asked, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on Elena's arm. This Elena said simply, just this. Everything else can wait. And so they stayed there, wrapped in each other and the life they were building together. Proof that sometimes the hardest journeys end exactly where they should, at home with the people who matter most and love's second chance at getting it right. The years passed with a gentle accumulation of ordinary moments that built themselves into something extraordinary. Sophie grew from 6 to 8 to 10, losing teeth and gaining inches and developing opinions about everything from climate change to whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Elena watched her daughter transform, marking time not in quarterly reports and fiscal years, but in school projects and growth spurts. And the gradual deepening of Sophie's voice as she moved through childhood toward adolescence. Elena had been living with Mira and Sophie for 3 years when the phone call came that would test everything they had rebuilt. It was a Tuesday evening in early spring, the kind of night when the air smelled like possibility and the trees were just beginning to bud. Elena was helping Sophie with a science project about plate tectonics. While Mira made dinner, Rex sprawled under the kitchen table, hoping for dropped food. The domestic scene felt so natural now that Elena sometimes forgot it had once seemed impossible. Her phone rang with her father's personal number, which was unusual enough that Elena felt a flutter of anxiety. He never called her directly anymore, preferring to communicate through formal channels or her mother's carefully worded emails. I need to take this, she told Sophie, stepping into the living room. Keep working on your diagram. Elena, her father's voice sounded strained, older than she remembered. I need to talk to you about the company, about succession planning. Elena's stomach tightened. What's going on, Dad? I'm sick. He said it bluntly without preamble or softening. Pancreatic cancer, stage 3. The doctors are saying I have maybe 2 years if the treatment works, less if it doesn't. Your mother is handling it about as well as you'd expect, which is to say not well at all. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Elena sat down heavily on the couch, one hand pressed to her chest. Despite their complicated relationship, despite years of distance and disagreement, he was still her father. The man who had taught her to read financial statements, who had walked her through her first board meeting, who had shaped her into the leader she had become, even if his methods had been flawed. Dad, I'm so sorry. What do you need? What can I do? I need you to think about what comes next for the company, for your mother. The board is going to want assurances that Chen Industries will remain stable during my treatment and after I'm gone. His voice cracked slightly on the last words, and Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. I know we haven't seen eye to eye on many things. I know I pushed you too hard, expected too much, but you've proven yourself 100 times over. You're a better CEO than I ever was, and the company will be safe in your hands. The company is already in my hands, Elena said gently. I've been running it for years. You know that. But you've been doing it while I was still here, still involved with the board, still providing oversight. This would be different. This would be you truly taking the reins, making decisions without anyone looking over your shoulder. And it would mean more hours, more responsibility, more travel. I need to know you're ready for that. That your personal life won't interfere with what the company needs. There it was, the implicit criticism, the suggestion that her relationship with Mira and Sophie was somehow a liability rather than the source of her strength. Elena felt anger flash through her grief. My personal life doesn't interfere with anything. I run one of the most successful companies in our sector while maintaining a healthy work-life balance. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. No matter what you've always believed, Elena, I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm trying to prepare you for what's coming. The board, the shareholders, the media, they're all going to be watching to see how you handle this transition. Some of them will be looking for any sign of weakness, any reason to question your leadership. I need you to be ready for that scrutiny. I am ready. I've been ready. Elena stood and walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street where children were riding bikes in the fading light. But I'm not going to sacrifice my family again. Not for the company, not for the board, not for anyone. I learned that lesson the hard way, and I'm not going back. Her father was quiet for a long moment. I suppose I deserve that. I pushed you to make choices that hurt you, that cost you years with your daughter. I thought I was preparing you for the reality of leadership, but maybe I was just passing down my own mistakes. The admission was so unexpected that Elena felt something shift in her chest. Dad, let me finish, please. He took a breath, and Elena could hear the effort it cost him. Watching you these past few years, seeing you with Sophie and Mira at family events, seeing how you've managed to be both a dedicated CEO and a present parent, it's made me realize how much I missed. How much time with you I sacrificed for the sake of the company. Your mother and I, we built our lives around work and status and what other people thought of us. We forgot that none of that matters in the end. What matters is the people you love and whether you showed up for them. Elena was crying now, tears streaming down her face as she listened to her father articulate regrets she had never expected to hear. You're not gone yet, Dad. You still have time to show up for me, for Sophie, for Mom. It's not too late. I'd like that if you'll let me. His voice was rough with emotion. I'd like to get to know my granddaughter properly. I'd like to make peace with you before I run out of time. I'd like that too. Elena wiped her face with the back of her hand. Come to dinner this weekend, both of you. Let's start there. After she hung up, Elena stood at the window for a long time, trying to process the conversation. Behind her, she heard Mira's footsteps, then felt Mira's arms wrap around her from behind. Mira's chin resting on her shoulder. I heard some of it, Mira said quietly. I'm sorry about your father. He's dying and he's finally admitting that he made mistakes, that he pushed me to make choices that hurt both of us. Elena turned in Mira's arms, burying her face in Mira's neck. I don't know how to feel. I'm sad and angry and relieved all at once. You feel however you need to feel. There's no right way to process this. Mira held her tighter. What do you need right now? I need this. You are family. I need to remember why I made the choices I made. Why I'm not going to let the company consume my life the way it consumed his. Elena pulled back enough to look at Mira's face. He wants to come to dinner this weekend. Both my parents to spend time with Sophie to try to make amends before he runs out of time. Is that okay? Of course, it's okay. This is your home, too. Your family is always welcome here. Mira's expression was gentle, understanding. But, Elena, you need to talk to Sophie about this. She needs to understand what's happening with her grandfather, and she needs to know that you might be dealing with some complicated emotions. They told Sophie together that evening, sitting on either side of her on the couch with Rex's head in her lap. Elena explained that her father was very sick, that he might not have much time left, and that he wanted to spend more time with their family. Sophie listened with the serious attention she brought to difficult topics, her young face creased with concern. "Is he going to die?" she asked directly. And Elena appreciated that her daughter didn't shy away from hard truths. "Probably yes, maybe in a year or two, maybe sooner. The doctors are doing everything they can, but his kind of cancer is very aggressive." Elena took Sophie's hand. "I know you don't know him very well. He and I have had a complicated relationship, and he hasn't been as involved in your life as he should have been. But he wants to change that now if you're open to it. Will he be nice to you and Mama?" Sophie's question cut straight to the heart of her concerns, because if he's mean to you, I don't want him here. You're my mom's and nobody gets to be mean to you. Elena felt her heart swell with love for this fierce, protective child. He's trying to be better. He's made mistakes just like I made mistakes when I left your mama before you were born. Sometimes people need time to realize what really matters. I think he's realized that now. Okay, he can come to dinner, but I'm going to watch him. Sophie's expression was determined. And if he makes you cry, I'm going to tell him to leave. The dinner that weekend was awkward at first. Everyone navigating the unfamiliar territory of genuine connection rather than formal courtesy. Elena's mother was stiff and uncomfortable, clearly struggling with her husband's illness and the informal setting of Mira's home. Elena's father looked diminished, the cancer and treatment already taking their toll on his once robust frame. But Sophie, in the way that children can sometimes cut through adult pretense, asked her grandfather questions about what he had been like when Elena was little, what stories he could tell about her mother as a child. Slowly, tentatively, Elena's father began to talk. He told stories Elena had never heard, about teaching her to ride a bike in the garden of their estate, about the time she had snuck into his study and tried to read his business books when she was 7, about how proud he had been at her college graduation, even though he had never told her so directly. Elena's mother added details here and there, and gradually the evening transformed into something less painful, more bittersweet. Sophie listened to every word, storing away these pieces of family history, building a more complete picture of where she came from. As they were leaving, Elena's father pulled her aside. "Thank you for this, for letting us into your home, into your real life. Sophie is remarkable. You and Mira have done an extraordinary job raising her." "Thank you." "That means a lot." Elena hesitated, then asked the question that had been haunting her. "Dad, do you have regrets about how you raised me? About the choices you pushed me to make?" "So many regrets, I couldn't begin to count them all." He looked at her with eyes that held a lifetime of accumulated sorrow. "I raised you to be strong and successful, but I didn't teach you to be happy. I didn't show you that you could be both. I made you think you had to choose between love and achievement, and in doing so, I nearly cost you everything that mattered." "Yes, Elena, I have regrets." "I'm glad you're saying this now while there's still time for us to have a different relationship." Elena felt tears threatening again. "I want Sophie to know her grandfather. I want her to see that people can change, that it's never too late to try to make things right. Then I'll do my best to show her that however much time I have left, I'll use it better than I used the time before." He embraced her awkwardly, unpracticed at physical affection after years of maintaining emotional distance. "I'm proud of you, Elena, not just for what you've accomplished professionally, but for having the courage to build the life you wanted despite everything I taught you." Over the following months, Elena's father became a more regular presence in their lives. He came to Sophie's soccer games and piano recital, sitting beside Mira and Elena and cheering enthusiastically. He asked questions about Sophie's interests and actually listened to the answers. He brought books about dinosaurs and science kits, engaging with his granddaughter in ways he had never engaged with his own daughter. Elena watched this transformation with complicated feelings. Grief for the father she might have had if he had made these choices earlier. Gratitude that he was making them now. Anger that it had taken a terminal diagnosis to change him. The cancer progressed faster than the doctors had hoped. 6 months after his diagnosis, Elena's father was in hospice care at the family estate. His body failing, but his mind still sharp. Elena visited him every day after work, sometimes bringing Sophie, sometimes coming alone to sit with him in the quiet hours when he was too tired for much conversation. Mira supported her through this difficult time, holding her when she came home exhausted and grief-stricken, helping her navigate the complicated emotions of losing someone she had never fully reconciled with. One evening, 3 days before he died, Elena's father asked to speak with her and Mira together. They came to his room in the evening when the light was golden and soft through the windows, when the estate felt less like a mausoleum and more like a home. He was in bed propped up on pillows, looking frail but determined. "I wanted to thank you both," he said without preamble. "Mira, for raising Sophie with such grace and strength, for forgiving Elena when you had every right not to, for building a family that shows my daughter what love actually looks like." Mira's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for saying that. I know we didn't have the easiest start, but I appreciate you making an effort these past months." And Elena, he turned his gaze to his daughter. "I wanted to tell you that I've updated my will. Your mother will be taken care of course. But I'm leaving my shares in Chen Industries to Sophie, held in trust until she's 30, not because I expect her to run the company. That decision will be hers to make when she's old enough, but because those shares represent our family's legacy, and she should have the choice about what to do with that legacy." Elena felt her breath catch. "Dad, that's incredibly generous." "Thank you. It's not generosity, it's justice. Sophie is my grandchild. She deserves to inherit what would have been yours regardless." He paused, struggling for breath. "And Elena, there's something else. I've written you a letter. Your mother will give it to you after I'm gone. In it, I've tried to explain things I've never been able to say out loud. I've tried to apologize properly for the ways I failed you. I hope you'll read it with an open heart." "I will, I promise." Elena moved closer and took his hand, feeling how thin it had become, how cold. "Thank you, Dad, for trying to make things right, for showing up for Sophie these past months. It's meant more than you know. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had decades instead of months, but I'm grateful for the time we had." He squeezed her hand weakly. "Be happy, Elena. That's all I want for you now. Be happy and don't make my mistakes. Don't wait until you're dying to tell the people you love that they matter." 3 days later, he was gone. Elena held his hand as he took his last breath, her mother on the other side of the bed, both of them united in grief for the complicated man they had loved. The funeral was large and formal, full of business associates and board members and people who had known her father as a titan of industry, but not as a person. Elena gave a eulogy that was honest without being cruel, acknowledging both his accomplishments and his shortcomings, the legacy he was leaving, and the lessons she had learned from watching his final months. Sophie stood between her mothers during the service, holding both their hands, and afterwards she asked Elena if she was sad. "Yes," Elena told her honestly. "I'm very sad. But I'm also grateful that he got to know you, that he tried to be better at the end. Sometimes that's all we can hope for, that people realize what matters before it's too late." The letter her father had left was everything he had promised and more. Pages and pages of careful handwriting explaining his fears and insecurities, the pressure he had felt to maintain the family legacy, the ways his own father had raised him to value achievement over connection. He wrote about watching Elena grow up and being terrified that she wouldn't be strong enough to handle the company, that she would be hurt by the ruthless world of corporate leadership. He wrote about pushing her so hard because he thought that was what love looked like, preparing her for battle rather than teaching her to find peace. He wrote about his regrets, countless and specific, and his gratitude that she had found her way to happiness despite his interference. Elena read the letter alone in her father's study, surrounded by the books and awards and trappings of his professional life. She cried for the relationship they might have had, for the softness he had buried under layers of ambition and fear. But she also felt a strange sense of closure, of understanding. Her father had been shaped by his own wounds, his own limitations. He had done his best with the tools he had, even when his best wasn't enough. Forgiving him didn't mean forgetting what he had done or pretending their relationship had been easy. It meant accepting him as he was flawed and human and trying in his final months to be better. She brought the letter home and shared parts of it with Mira, needing her partner to understand the complexity of what she was feeling. Mira listened and held her and didn't try to make it simpler than it was. "You're allowed to grieve for him and still be angry about what he did," Mira said. "You're allowed to appreciate his growth while wishing he had started sooner. People contain multitudes, parents especially. I keep thinking about Sophie," Elena admitted, "about what kind of parent I want to be for her. I don't want to make my father's mistakes, pushing too hard, expecting too much, making her think she has to choose between different parts of herself. But I also don't want to swing too far in the opposite direction and fail to prepare her for the world's challenges. So we'll find a middle path. We'll teach her to be strong and kind, ambitious and grounded, successful and happy. We'll show her that she can be all of those things at once, that she doesn't have to sacrifice one for the other." Mira pulled Elena closer. "And when we mess up, because we will mess up, we'll apologize and do better, the way your father tried to do at the end. That's all anyone can ask." The months after her father's death were a period of adjustment. Elena stepped fully into her role as the unquestioned leader of Chen Industries. No longer operating in anyone's shadow, the board had questions and concerns, as her father had predicted. But she answered them with confidence and competence, demonstrating that her commitment to work-life balance didn't diminish her effectiveness as a CEO. She restructured her executive team, promoted Maya to president of operations, and implemented policies that made the company more family-friendly across all levels, extended parental leave, flexible work arrangements, on-site childcare. Her mother struggled with widowhood, and Elena found herself building a relationship with her that had never existed before. Without her father as a dominant presence, her mother revealed unexpected depths, a sharp wit, a love of art and literature, a capacity for reflection that she had kept hidden behind years of social performance. She started coming to Sunday dinners at Elena's house, gradually warming to Mira and Sophie, slowly becoming the grandmother she had never let herself be before. Sophie, now 10 years old, was flourishing in ways that filled Elena with pride and wonder. She had inherited Elena's sharp intellect and Mira's emotional intelligence, creating a combination that was uniquely her own. She asked difficult questions about death and loss and family, processing her grandfather's passing with a maturity that seemed beyond her years. She was still obsessed with dinosaurs, but had added astronomy and marine biology to her list of interests. She was already talking about college, about what she wanted to study, about the kind of person she wanted to become. One Saturday afternoon, Elena found Sophie in the backyard lying on the grass and staring up at the clouds while Rex dozed beside her. Elena lay down next to her, matching her daughter's posture, remembering doing the same thing when she was young. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Grandpa," Sophie said. "And you and whether I want to run the company someday." Elena's heart stuttered. "That's a big thing to be thinking about. You know, you don't have to decide that for a long time, right?" "I know, but I've been thinking about what it means that he left me those shares. Whether he wanted me to feel obligated or whether he was just giving me choices." Sophie turned her head to look at Elena. "What do you think he wanted?" "I think he wanted you to have options. To have the financial security and the power to decide your own path, whether that path involves the company or not." Elena reached over and took Sophie's hand. "Your grandfather learned a lot of hard lessons at the end of his life. One of them was that forcing people into predetermined roles doesn't work. He wanted you to have the freedom he never gave me. Do you like running the company?" Sophie's question was genuinely curious, not judgmental. "I do. I find it challenging and meaningful and sometimes even fun. But I also like being your mom and being Mira's partner and having a life outside of work. I like all of it together. The key is not letting any one part take over completely." Elena squeezed Sophie's hand. "What matters is that you figure out what makes you happy. What makes you feel like your life has purpose? Whether that involves Chen Industries or paleontology or marine biology or something we haven't even thought of yet. I'm glad I have time to figure it out. Sophie went back to watching the clouds. And I'm glad you and Mama figured it out. That you found your way back to each other and to me. Me too, baby. Every single day. Me too. That evening, after Sophie had gone to bed and Rex was snoring on his dog bed, Elena and Mira sat together on the porch, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. It had been 5 years since that first meeting in the park. 5 years of slowly rebuilding trust and creating a family. From the fractured pieces of what had been, Elena thought about how far they had come from that awkward first conversation in her office to this quiet evening of shared domesticity. She thought about her father's death and the complicated inheritance it had left her. Not just the company, shares, and the financial assets, but the lessons about what mattered and what didn't, about the cost of choices and the value of time. Do you ever think about where we'd be if I hadn't walked away? Elena asked. If I had been brave enough 7 years ago to tell my parents no, to choose you over their expectations. Mira was quiet for a moment, considering sometimes, but I try not to dwell on it. We can't change the past, and spending too much energy on what if seems like a waste of the present. She leaned her head on Elena's shoulder. Besides, I don't know if we would have made it if we'd stayed together then. We were young and I was naive, and you were under so much pressure. Maybe we needed that separation, as painful as it was, to grow into people who could build something lasting. Maybe that's just what we tell ourselves to make sense of the pain. Elena wrapped her arm around Mira, but either way, I'm grateful for where we are now. For this life we've built, for Sophie, for the fact that you were willing to give me another chance when you had every reason not to. I'm grateful too. And not just for the big things, for the ordinary moments like this. Sitting here together at the end of another day. For knowing that tomorrow you'll be here too, and the day after that, and all the days after the stability and certainty of us. Mira lifted her head and kissed Elena softly. For knowing that you chose us and you keep choosing us every single day. They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined as the night settled around them. Inside the house, Sophie slept peacefully, surrounded by books about dinosaurs and posters of the solar system, dreaming whatever dreams 10-year-olds dream. Rex shifted in his sleep, chasing something only he could see. The house creaked and settled, full of the warmth and life they had filled it with. Elena thought about the future. Sophie growing up and moving through adolescence into young adulthood. The challenges and joys that would come with each new phase. She thought about growing old with Mira, about all the years they had ahead of them to build memories and deepen their connection. She thought about the company and the legacy her father had left, about the responsibility of shaping it into something that reflected her values rather than his. She thought about the woman she'd been 7 years ago, so convinced that love and success were mutually exclusive, so afraid of disappointing people who didn't truly know her. That woman seemed like a stranger now. Elena had learned what her father had learned too late, that professional accomplishments meant nothing if you had no one to share them with. That power without purpose was hollow. That the only legacy that truly mattered was the love you gave and received. She had learned that second chances were rare and precious, that forgiveness was a gift that had to be earned through consistent action rather than grand gestures. She had learned that family was something you built rather than something you were simply born into. That it required intention and effort and the courage to keep showing up even when things were difficult. What are you thinking about? Mira asked, her voice soft in the darkness. Everything, nothing. How lucky I am. How much I love you both. How grateful I am that you let me come home. Elena turned to look at Mira, seeing her face in profile against the night sky. How I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice. I won't regret it. I've never regretted it. Not for a single moment since we decided to try again. Mira's smile was visible even in the dim light. We've built something good here, Elena. Something strong and true and worth protecting. And we're going to keep building it day by day, year by year. For as long as we have. For as long as we have, Elena echoed, and it sounded like a vow, a promise, a prayer.